What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you on Lucid. I want to go over some of the current data points, go over what's been coming out from the company itself, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So right now it is down 4.53%. So that's more of a byproduct, just the market reacting negatively to China. Once again, committing that they are and reiterating that they're going to be doing anything at all costs for the most part to save their stock market. That is on a very vicious death spiral. And they're citing a lot of malicious activity, naked shorting and whatnot. So the market's not necessarily seeing that as a good thing, potentially. 5.5 million shares being traded within the first 30 minutes of the trading day. 44.9 is the average. I'm sure you can tell based on my background as well. I am back. I appreciate you sticking, or I guess holding tight. No Lucid videos, I guess, within 1 week, but I'm going to be back to my regular scheduled broadcasting very shortly. But as of late, there hasn't been really any recent news. The last news came out on the 30th, and that was just Lucid appointing Matt Everett as general counsel. Kind of touched on this during my video recently, where I did say, especially comparing it to other EVs, typically this is the first step towards maybe a lawsuit against malicious activity, naked shorting, and whatever else. I could be wrong though, but especially with Lucid right now having 31.1% short interest, the all-time high being 31.3%. So very, very close, but for it to be at 31%, that is just very bad. Again, what do I know? I'm not a financial advisor. Right now, shorts are increasing 329,000 shares, 275.34 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost to borrow average is 24.27%. So in reality, I don't feel like it's a random event that we are at all-time highs for short interest and that they do decide to appoint Matt Everett as general counsel. So I feel like there's going to be something that does come in the maybe coming months. Most likely Lucid is just tracking a lot of data right now, and they're gathering information to prompt a potential lawsuit. There's a lot of companies that have done that in the past. Not necessarily the biggest companies. Normally the big companies just like to let their operations speak for themselves. But like I've already pointed out in previous videos, like there's companies that don't do jack all that have maybe a 7% short interest. Whereas Lucid, even though they're slow at ramping up, they are still moving in the right direction. They're building a good foundation, but to have 31% short interest, that is just very, very wrong. My own opinion, once again. Aside from that, with today being February the 5th, on the 7th, this is when you can actually pose questions to management for the upcoming earnings. Like I've indicated in the past, I'm not really a fan of it because they do not allow Canadians, and with a lot of our brokers, to pose questions. So this is where I'll be kind of asking a lot of you to hopefully put forth a couple questions on my behalf. One thing that I really want to know is ESS. So because there's been a lot of articles coming out with big developments from Saudi Arabia, but I believe it was Q2 2023. This is where Lucid said that they're not going to be pursuing ESS for the foreseeable future, which I've kind of found flawed because there was a lot of articles as well at the same time saying that like Lucid in among itself, ESS could generate roughly about 23 billion in revenue by 2030. That would be huge. That'd be insane. And based on what they said in 2022 earnings, they already have the foundation, right? They already have the prototype number 2. They haven't really given that much updates, but they clearly do and are leasing land for ESS. So Lucid, I feel like there is developments that should be said from them. Just they've gone silent. But a couple other additional updates I just want to share with you. I kind of showed a video, I believe one of my last videos for Lucid, and it was a Lucid retrofitted for police. And so that kind of left a lot of people very curious on what that actually did mean, but there has been some pretty good developments for that. So Lucid Motors to unveil a new range of security vehicles at World Defense Show in Riyadh. So ultimately, I feel like this is good, but at the same time, it kind of shows that Lucid isn't just a luxury vehicle. It could be used for multiple different purposes. And plus, on a side note, I feel like this is good marketing because if you see like a crazy fast vehicle going down the highway with sirens on, a lot of people are going to be like, what the hell is that? That, like, it's eye-catching, right? Which even Lucid by itself is eye-catching, but throwing some lights on it, that be pretty cool. And I've thrown this out on Twitter, very random, but I feel like Lucid should actually, on a marketing standpoint, put it in the upcoming game, Grand Theft Auto 5. I think it's due to come out 2025, 2026, sometime like that, for those of you that do play video games and whatever else. But I feel like that also would be a very good marketing thing for Lucid. So aside from that though, they've kind of vaguely stated that they do want to enter the Chinese market when the Gravity is unveiled, or I guess starting to ramp up on production for that. I don't know if that's such a good thing, especially with a lot of the negative developments that's been coming out about EVs from China. So I don't know if that's necessarily the best move, but this is where I do feel there could be a very big partnership in the foreseeable future, because for those of you that do follow Polestar, Volvo has recently kind of stated that they want to dump their position of Polestar, right? It is fair to assume that Geely is going to pick that up, but by doing so, that's bringing Polestar into more so out of arm's reach, if that makes sense. So they're going to be more under the PIF umbrella. And technically, for those of you that do know Polestar, they missed on their 2023 targets, but they still can produce quite a lot of vehicles. Whereas Lucid, they have good technology. We already know that. They are lacking in the ramping up component. Lucid has a lot of big goals as well, right? They want to go take over the world. And Polestar has the infrastructure right now to be in all the necessary and key locations within Europe, China, everywhere. So I do feel like there could be some partnership, some strategic partnership in the foreseeable future announced, maybe in 2024, and that would be absolutely amazing. Especially, like I said, some hybrid, whether, and also on a side note, for those of you that do know, like a lot of car companies, automotive companies have different stages and levels, right? You have a high end, a low end, and a medium, right? So this is where the PIF is probably trying to figure out where Sear is going to work into all of this, plus that newly formed venture within the PIF that they are starting to do. So there's a lot of big developments that could come. So I feel like even though Volvo dumping their shares of Polestar, I feel like that could still really help Lucid on a side note. But again, I'm kind of going off topic overall. Starting off with shorts, like I said, right now they're increasing about 343,000 shares. So shorts have really doubled down on Lucid. And despite what's been happening on a larger scale economy wise and data points that's been coming out, shorts have just been hammering Lucid. So I feel like there should be a lawsuit announced maybe sooner rather than later that could really stand to help the stock price. Right now, looking at options, $83,000 in calls being purchased versus $359,000 in puts. Sentiment wise, 54% of all the options being done so far are bullish. So even though it is pulling down a little bit with the broader market, there is a sense of value being sought through options. And of the call options that are being purchased, there is a consensus for it to be above $4 by the end of this week. So that's kind of optimistic. And looking at puts, it is anticipated for it to be sub $3. So more of a continuation of the breakdown for that. And just to show you right here, so with it right now at $3.19, it is trading between this R2 and this R3. So $3.15, which it kind of bounced off of temporarily so far today, that is going to be the next strong support. Vice versa, $3.38 is going to be the next strong resistance. So Lucid has done fairly well, with the exception of the last several trading days, so Thursday, Friday. But generally, Lucid did actually flex and show that it can actually go against the broader market and the stream and go up. So that's kind of a good thing. Looking at Lucid right now, so shows number of retail investors have been getting in. It looks like ever since January the 18th, and stochastic, you do see it at 64. So it is on a little bit of a high end there, so potentially overbought. But you do see a bearish sentiment starting to form as of today. It's a red line above the black. And plus, it is still higher percentile of the Bollinger Band, so that is generally good. But at the same time, this is a very key point to watch for, because if it does break below that, then anticipate possibly the $2 range once again, or within the twos, probably the high end of the twos. Just going back over here for a second. So keep note of some of the very strong supports below 315. So 302, 279, 256. So 256, so this S1 is essentially that line in the sand. It bounced off of that, I believe, if I remember correctly, twice or 3 times. So that's a very strong support level that we do know is there. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. What do you think about this partnership that I did say? Do you think that's going to come to realization between Polestar and Lucid, or do you think that's just too far-fetched? As well, give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying Lucid? Have you been selling? What have you been doing with Lucid? While I was on vacation, I was doing, I didn't buy any Lucid exactly. I did do options. So once again, take advantage of either selling covered calls or selling puts. Very advantageous to do that because you can either collect the premiums or especially with selling puts, you technically can buy Lucid at a fairly cheap price if there is a more of a pullback once again. So highly suggest in researching options if you guys haven't already. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And one final thing, as I always say, take advantage of this promo. Simply sign up for an account with Moo, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.